Welcome to the Didi and Littal Show. Advice, thoughts, and stories from a married couple on cybersecurity, technology, and life in general. Now here are your hosts, Didi and Littal.
Hello and welcome to the Didi and Littal Show. Hey Didi.
Hey Little.
What's up?
Good question.
What happened to awesome?
What? No. Awesome is awesome, and I'll tell you what is awesome. I got my first pedalboard.
I was about to say,
I got
your
my
pedalboard. Describe the experience. Well, we moved to a new house,
Which we talked about at
6
ad
weeks
nauseam.
ago. Yeah. And now we have our own backyard going into Charles River, and we can pedalboard. The only thing is that our new dock still didn't ship, so
It's not just that. It's the whole regulation around it, and nobody wants to build us stairs towards the river, and because of the fact that it's access to the city, and it's a wet space, and a green space, and a bullshit space. So I had to basically, there's like a 4-foot
drop
into the
very muddy drop in the water.
Very muddy, very steep.
Slippery and steep.
It's
It's basically a drop to the water from a backyard.
which I did.
So did you jump on your board and started
So I used the
going?
pedal. I used the pedal as a walking stick.
Okay.
And carried the board on the other hand.
Okay.
By the
I
way,
would just throw it in the water.
Your new board that cost a shitload of money will break like a twig
Okay.
because there's rocks down.
Yeah,
you
true.
need
And
you need to put it in, and even though you're working on your upper body strength. Good luck. So you need to come down the drop.
The muddy drop.
Put the board at about 4 feet away, otherwise you break your fin because the water is shallow.
Yep.
Then you need to hop onto the board from the bank. Now you need to think, as you pedal, as you know, I am not a big planner. I don't believe in planning. I believe you jump first, then you see if there's water in the pool.
Literally.
Yes.
You did have some water in the river.
Oh, there was a lot of water in the river. And I'm pedaling happily. And even very fast into the process, it was very clear that getting out of there is going to be a shit show.
I wasn't there to take a video.
Yes. But so first, for everybody that's worried, I'm here. I'm fine. I got out. Second, I think for the future, I have a better plan, which
Wait until the 21st when the dock arrives.
I don't give a fuck.
It's like in a week from now.
Who cares?
What do you mean? Yeah, but the weather this weekend might be
Exactly.
nice. So what are we doing?
So what we're doing...
What did you do and what we'll do in the future?
There's what I did and what we'll do in the future. So,
okay.
As you know, some of us have upper body strength. Listen, you like to make fun of me, but this is the advantage of being an old fat jock. I still bench press 250. It really frustrates Ron, by the way. It really pisses off Ron whenever I bench press more than him. So I got to the bank, put my feet in the water, got full of mud, sat on my ass, again full of mud, basically lifted the board with one hand and put it on the bank.
Yeah.
And then climbed on all fours.
Okay. What's next time?
Next time, across the bridge, there's a really easy out. Really easy out.
But then you'll need to carry the board for
across the street. It's 200 yards. If you can't carry the board for 200... Think of how...
You're talking in Needham? The Needham side?
No. You cross the bridge on Echo Bridge side. Yes, you come out on the Needham side. But all you need to do is just cross the street and you're in a house.
Okay.
It's super simple. This is where
It's a mile of... No, not a mile. Half a mile of walk.
100 yards.
I don't think so.
I measured.
Okay.
I measured.
Okay, that's fine. You'll carry both boards.
No, we'll go with the inflatables maybe. They're lighter.
Oh, I don't know.
Don't worry about it. Blings are a part of security. But it made me think of the topic that I want to talk about.
Yeah, what's that?
I hate green people. They're stupid. They
I mean,
hate.
you like the environment, don't you? We enjoy the environment.
Listen, here's the good part. Here's the bad part.
Okay.
The good part is the fact that we can put our feet in the Charles. The Charles used to be so toxic that your foot would melt if you stick it in there. And there was like an encephalitis called after the Charles. So the fact that somebody cleaned up the Charles
is awesome.
Somebody cleaned up the harbor is awesome. But sometimes with the green, they don't realize when we're green enough.
Oh, the intentions are good.
The intentions are good.
But the outcomes are not well thought of.
Yes, because you put people that this is their part-time job.
Or this is a passion for them.
Or this is a passion for them.
Yeah.
But they don't actually understand the complexity of the system. Let's start with the example that we already covered with Andy, when Andy was here.
Let's give the background.
Let's give the background and go through a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of regulations happening in the People's Republic of Massachusetts, which, as we know, is a highly regulated, highly taxable communist state.
Highly woke.
Highly insane. For example, the city of Newton, in its great stupidity, decided on a one-car garage policy.
With the idea, people need to have less cars. They should use public transportation, walk, ride a bike. So let's just thinking allowing people to only have one car will make the whole thing greener. To be honest, I think like any regulation, you go and follow the lobby and the money. So while there is the greenwash of who kind of like that the excuse they sell it to you of this is good for the environment, people will actually use public transportation, they'll have less cars. The reality is this is coming from builders that if you force the market to only have one car garage, people want two car garage in Massachusetts because everybody has two cars.
Or three.
And you don't want in the winter to have to plow them out of the snow. So you want them to be covered, you want them to be heated. But if the regulator enforces the market to have just one, who is benefiting from it? Of course, the builders that can use the same space that they have to have more paid for square footage of housing.
You don't pay
for the garage space. You pay for the actual bedroom square footage. So from each space that they're building on, they get way more and they get richer. So good for them for lobbying it. And terrible for us for greenwashing and making it appear as like something good. Because let's talk about the actual outcome. The outcome is that working parents in the morning of a snowstorm will need to wake up early instead of leisurely walking in and driving the kids to school. We need to wake up and shovel our way out, and it's just terrible.
Yeah.
The other consequences, basically,
I think
it's taxing families with kids, families that work.
It's not just that. It's discouraging working moms, as Andy said, because what happens is the first car is always the dad's. The second car is the problem. And then you need to think of, we are very lucky with a long driveway. You're thinking of us and the long driveway, but most places that we looked at, for example, the condos,
they don't have driveway. And in the winter, you cannot even park in the street because there is a street parking ban.
So it means that you're forcing people to have one car, or forcing people not to live in the city.
Or going to a different town.
Or force people to have hacks. So you're basically discouraging working parents. And also there's another problem, which is you come up with a regulation with a desired end goal without thinking, and this is, by the way, an episode that I will also hint towards the future of, let's build a platform without having a platform. And
you didn't really solve public transportation. You have like an ideal that it will happen.
Let's take a look at
MBTA is broken.
The MBTA is broken. So using MBTA is not an option.
Which is public transportation in Massachusetts.
Yes. Second thing is there are no bike lanes, and the roads in Newton are, it looked like a tank. I think there's roads in Gaza that are in better condition than our roads. And this is just shameful that a town in a state that is this rich. I think, by the way, I have another flat in the Audi. Again, just on the state of the roads, it's just insane. It's just insane. And with a bike, I had to get a gravel bike because you can't ride a sports bike.
No.
In Newton, Massachusetts, you'll pop a tire every single
ride.
And right now, for example, there's this whole motion of trying to basically what is called skinning down the roads, which is a great idea, and putting in bike lanes. They're doing this in Needham Street.
That's awesome. I mean, we love biking, but let's not forget, we're still in Massachusetts and we have winter.
Forget that. It's halfway in, halfway out. Look at our area of Needham Street. They've been doing this for 3 years. If you move to one-car garage, after you have the bike lanes, after you fix public transport, everybody will be happy. But if you put the cart in front of the horse, you create problems. You actually make the system.
You do it because the lobbying pushed you to.
It doesn't matter. This is where you need to think of the lobbying, not lobbying. You need to think of, if I'm the public representative and I'm making the decision, I need to think of my constituents and I need to think of the system. I want something to happen. How about I use the same money that I wanted for this regulation, move it on, or force the contractors that are lobbying, very much like they did in Needham. In Needham, when TripAdvisor wanted that nice little building, they forced them to build the off-ramp. And thanks to that, if you actually do a quid pro quo with the lobbyists are really, really happy to help you out with some of these things. Say, hey, we'll push you to a one-car garage, but how about you fix these 5 roads that now are bikeable?
Yeah, that could be another one. Let's talk about our backyard.
Yes. And no, but that kind of thing, this is a guideline that you need to think of every time you go into, it doesn't matter if it's greenwash or it goes in towards
AI regulation. Of like regulating how to build instead of regulating the outcomes.
Yes.
That's another thing. Like trying to predict how AI will be built, how the models will be built, makes zero sense.
Yes.
If anything, you want to regulate what should be regulated, which is the application itself, security, the outcomes at the end, making sure they are within, they're not basically damaging. But I would be very careful with all those AI regulations coming up, because at the end of the day, we will let China win the AI race and we'll slow down.
I love what you said about the thinking of how to build it. The focus is how to build, very much like the 2-car garage, very much like other things. They think of how to, the steps into execute because that's what they understand, versus
outcome.
I
mean, you could have, I prefer those taxes about, specific hours of the day of driving. I mean, you can pay, higher tax to go through the bridges or whatever you have to make people, to make it less, there are ways economically to decrease usage of cars that are not in the build phase, they are in the application phase.
Yes.
Like make public transportation so cheap or even free that, with the cost, or if you really want, nobody wants to do it because it's political, but in Israel they do it all the time. They put very high taxes on gasoline. Why? Because that's part of the thing. First, government can make money out of it because people drive cars. And the second thing, by using all those kind of incentives or incentivize people, that is the way. If you want to change behaviors, tax the actual usage. Don't go upstream and do all those kind of weird things that you think that downstream will have an impact. Because when there are 5 steps from how to build your home all the way to actual, reducing car emissions, there's so many steps on the way that you're going to F it up.
Yes.
It's not going to happen. There are other consequences because there are so many steps away. Just
It's
go
also-
and
it's
regulate the actual thing you want to regulate,
There's also
if anything.
There's also the desire to have the right conflict. So I'll step back and explain that in our culture, in almost every one of the Eastern European cultures, there's a story about somebody that has good intentions and causes damage. Don Quixote sees the farmer beating up his basically farmhands. He comes in, he beats him up, he walks away. The farmhand double beats up his farm. The farmer double beats up these people as punishment for Don Quixote because he doesn't know enforcement. There's the bear help. That the bear tries to kill the fly on somebody's nose and kills them by smacking him. There's all these examples of how when when somebody's super strong tries to help, he causes damage. And look at every culture that you know will have a story like this, of how the strong try to help and they do damage. An example I was dealing with recently is in hiring practices. Apparently there's like a government regulation to make sure that everybody has an equal chance to hire, but you need to open the rec, publish it, make it sure that it's available in so many channels, wait, interview at least blah, blah, blah people, do something like this, do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
When it's absolute good intent. I salute them for doing this. Also, that regulation forced recruiters, thank God, to actually give me female candidates, which I was super grateful for.
Okay.
But because you're undergoing this practice, if you're not in good relationship with the candidates, you will lose good candidates. Because in this process, with the desire to help with diversity,
If you have a good candidate, he needs to wait until...
Forget that, it's actually not the he. The he will wait. The she that has 5 other people that trying to check the diversity box, you'll fight tooth and nail for. Because the reality is...
Maybe it's good for her. She'll make more.
It's great for her, but the fact is that if you're the recruiting party...
So it's discriminatory against those that actually follow those versus those that don't have this regulation, like private startups.
Exactly. So
Okay.
so basically, you handicap the people that follow the rules, and this is another good example of when we're thinking of handicap people, that the blunt over the top, and that kind of goes towards our backyard, and it goes towards. And I'll let you tell the story of Miss Trees and
The medallion?
The medallion.
Oh, okay. But you go, and then I'll go.
But the idea is that you come in super heavy-handed. You don't understand the environment. You cause more damage, and it's a lasting damage, and it impacts the end user. For example, the car garage impacts us. It doesn't help anybody. It makes the rich richer, and it doesn't help with the outcome.
Well, it helped the builder to get more
That's what I said.
square footage.
And in the hiring case, it cripples the company that does this. It basically it doesn't help the people that try to get hired, to be completely honest. It makes people wait a lot longer and get impatient, and sometimes takes worse deals because they're impatient and they're looking for a job. It basically hurts everybody, except for the people that don't follow the rules. And that's true for the new regulation about gas in the house, that they don't want to have gas. You only have to
There
have
is like a big campaign now around use of gas, going against heating with gas and cooking with gas, which I get. I mean, there is a safety issue of gas leaks. We had a terrible one a few years ago, close to where Sam Carey lives. There was like big explosion because of a leak in there. So There is a safety issue.
Well, he's Canadian, and I blame Canada for that.
No, it has nothing to do. It was the Merrimack Valley.
I know. I still blame Canada.
Explosion. I think this is an issue, and you get to walk in the street sometimes, and you can smell a gas leak or something. So it is an issue for safety. However, again, follow the money. So new construction now in many towns in Massachusetts, Newton included, if you're building a new home, heating cannot rely on gas anymore, so it has to be electrical, and cooking as well. So 2 things. One of my friends said, well, it's my constitutional right to be able to have
to get cancer by cooking an open flame.
There are some cooking outcomes that you cannot get. And if you're really particular about the way you want to cook, human beings, okay, I'm going to say it. Are you really kind of a human being if you cannot start a fire? And it's an ancestral thing. So just turning on and having kids that will never be able to deal with fire, I don't know.
Listen.
Well, maybe you will say because of that I'm a MAGA Karen. I know,
exactly.
Those kind of things. But
we moved to induction 5 years ago.
Yeah, we cook with induction. It's all good. It's good enough for us. But I do understand people saying I want to cook on open flames. That's fine. Why would the city tell me what to do? Also, if you think about the real problematic outcome, so again, we are in Massachusetts, the blizzards, the hard winters. We all move now to electricity. That means we only rely on one source of heating, which is coming from one monopoly called Eversource.
Which is where
and now we rely on the power grid. And as we've seen in Texas and California, those are not so reliable.
Yes.
And while, again, you already think of the outcome that they will be green and they will have green energy and stuff. The reality is that they still use, non-green energy sources. So how much is it different than using gas versus not having redundancy in the system, letting the lobbyists of Eversource probably win the day with all this regulation because it's great for them. More money going into Eversource and us relying on them as the only supplier of power grid. So maybe it will be good. We need to have our own kind of local
lobby.
No, we need to have our own solar panels and connect ourselves and be able to get off the grid whenever the grid falls.
I'm going to let Ron build the fusion reactor in the basement. He's Russian.
Well, we're building a shed. Maybe we could put it in the shed.
We could put it in the shed. But I think this is the funny part about this is how it translates to our real world.
Yeah.
Is that sometimes the uphill regulation with things like, now you're basically forcing vendors, you're changing the ecosystem.
Maybe the number of new construction and this, did you do the calculation of
nobody does the math.
Yeah, because at the same time, let me just tell you something that the regulator in Massachusetts doesn't think about. They don't think of Gen AI and the use of electricity for Gen AI. So, to have those data centers with in GPUs, how much electricity is needed and what's the increase? And so there are so many things that we don't factor, like we've seen when people started crypto mining, crypto is relatively small thing, but that had huge issues. I think there are places in the world, like third world countries that started harvesting crypto and it basically shut off the power grid completely. So those kind of things, you may force people to not be able to heat their homes because the regulatory now it says you have to heat it with the electricity. Well, at the same time, because of other forces, it will not be resilient, and demand will be, or maybe the cost will be so high. So this is where people don't think about the complex implication.
Yes.
You remove resilience from and multiple vendors, you're going into monopoly. It's always bad.
It's always bad.
Monopoly is bad.
And forget the monopoly, the resilience aspect. So we have 3 kids.
Yeah.
Because you need Byzantine high availability. You need 2+1. It's not just active
Maybe
passive.
we should have done.
No.
We should have.
No.
got more.
No. Byzantine high
Too
availability.
late.
2+1. Always 2+1 and a cat.
The cat doesn't carry out genes. It's not helpful. He's smart, but yeah.
He's ginger, so that means that he does carry some of my genes.
He's your favorite son. Can I talk about the medallion?
Of course we can talk
Some
about
of
the
this
medallion because I also
regulation
have
is pure vanity, and that what pisses me most off. So obviously, as you already understood, we have a waterfront to Charles River property now, and it's regulated as a conservation land, and that's fair. I do want, nature to be conserved. I think it's nice idea in general. One of the regulations that we got from the city is that we need to place a medallion of the conservation for once in 4 random corners of
a space.
A patio or like a little garden.
Who cares?
Or whatever. So the funny thing is that the guy that installed it said that it's basically like this kind of stick, aluminum stick or whatever metal it's made of, and a medallion at the top that says conservation land, as if a backyard is like a big hiking space. Like nobody goes there. So the people that we can have on our porch will know that it's a conservation land.
We're helping the environment.
Yeah. We are we and the bears that shit in the woods.
Yes.
Like we're together in
And
this.
Ron.
So basically the guy who installed it said, do you know that this metal it's all thing made of is actually toxic? And, with the rain, it goes in the river. And like, he was like, this is freaking stupid.
Yep.
It's pure vanity of having the stupid medallion and you looking at the medallion of nice for you to have a piece of land in the conservation. Nobody needs the 4 pieces of medallions and the little thing that they are stuck on. And it's actually made of something toxic that will go in the river. So again, nobody thinks about it. Somebody in the conservation
Thought this was cool and then lobbied.
It's cool and beautiful and who cares? Why not? Let's have a stupid medallion. It's good for the medallion manufacturers in China. Again, guys, let's care about things that actually make a difference. And I think that's the problem. There's so much vanity and feeling nice and cozy because we think it's the right thing to do, while it's actually the wrong thing to do. Makes the environment way, way, way worse.
And I'll tell you, so after we've had all this negativity, because since you became a mega.
I will tell you about one green stuff that I do like and was extremely successful. So since our parents were kids in Israel, there is a huge campaign, probably the most successful campaign ever of, green protection, which is don't pick up flowers. There were even songs written about that in Israel. So since we were kids, we were told in school, when you go on a day trip, you go hiking, you never pick up flowers. They are conserved. We want nature to stay where nature is. Don't pick up flowers. And there is no single kid that, I have this kind of like
aversion,
a visceral reaction when I'm kind of like seeing a flower and thinking, and it is some of those flowers are okay to pick up, but you never do it because you never know. So this is a good campaign. Like, what's the negative outcomes of that, of you not bringing up a bouquet from your hike? It's a good thing.
Dandelions are bad. Everybody needs to take them out. But yes.
So, you know, I'm all for things that are good for the environment, good for nature.
I'll give you a couple of examples that are really good and also that have a business impact for sustainability. Because sustainability, I think, is a good thing to think about. And I'll give you a couple of very good examples of companies that did things amazing.
Okay.
Microsoft, who I like to beat up on, some of their green buildings are unbelievable. They've made cooling significantly more efficient.
That's great.
They've made things solar significantly more efficient. Intel used the cooling of the servers to heat up other things. It was amazing. That building in Haifa is like unreal. They picked a location that's on the train versus making shit up. They put their money where their mouth is. They put it in a more expensive area that had direct access to the train to make people be able to commute from Caesarea and not from other places and from the north. So it made it available. So people that want to build sustainability, they just need to invest real thought
and think what matters versus
and
vanity stuff.
And think what matters.
Yeah.
So the Intel building in Haifa, amazing green building, a marvel. There are other things that when we pushed for sustainability, we actually made things better and cheaper. The reduction of packaging. I think the reduction of packaging, if we can do more, by the way, I'll be eternally grateful.
Yeah.
But versus the stupid thing with the plastic bags and the cardboard bags that fall apart in your hands. So that's a bad example. But the actual ability to
just remove straws instead of giving you these paper straws.
Yes.
They're useless.
Exactly. Move the cup into the cup with the hole. I love the cup with the hole.
It's so much better.
Exactly.
Why do you need a straw?
Ask Leah.
I don't know. It's stupid.
Ask Leah.
Yeah, she uses straws. I don't know. Yes. Well, I bought her the aluminum straws at least.
Yes. Now those, we'll talk about that in another.
Maybe they are toxic. I don't know.
Exactly.
We'll see how her brains functions.
Teenage brains never function.
Exactly.
But the idea is that they're a good example of sustainability that is done right. And as a new company or as an old company, when you think of embracing a sustainability element, don't do this as a hobby. It's a profession. It's a real profession.
It's engineering.
It's real engineering. And when it's done right, it will save you significant amount of money. Because, for example, one of the things that we were talking about in terms of sustainability is how do we deal with all the device pickups of all the devices that we need to bring? And when I pushed the sustainability button, it said, you know what? How about one of you guys, because Matt always drives up to Boxborough, how about somebody just brings a pile of laptops and drops it in IT's lap versus all the shipping that they wanted to do? Oh shit, it's really effective. It's really sustainable. These things matter. And this is where people should put their efforts in. Unsustainable, that makes sense. And it's true also for running your ops operations. Sustainable helps you. But you need to think about it in terms of how do you optimize your supply chain? Not listen to the person that yells the loudest, because they usually will want to have a monopoly. Apply pressure on the people that can actually have a successful outcome. And this is where things really improve.
Awesome.
So
well,
with that, I need to finish on the most important part of the thing, which is goaltender interference in hockey. Yes. So, because you live under a rock.
Why didn't you start with that? We usually start with the sports.
Yeah, I know. But
you're like, bring it instead of us finishing with the topic. You're going off topic.
No, it is topic.
Okay.
It's stupid regulations.
I'll let you go with it.
It ties it down to stupid regulations.
Okay.
So, when the Bruins were playing the Panthers, when we lost, there was a horrific goaltender interference. Goaltender interference means that the goalie stands in the crease and tries to stop the pucks going in. You're not supposed to land on him, beat him up, run him over. And one of the Panthers cross-checked one of the Bruins into the goalie. It got to the point where I think only Felger in the world didn't support it. I think he'll probably find his car torched somewhere in Wellesley. But he was the only person that thought. PK Subban, who hates the Bruins with a vengeance, he says, I can't believe I need to protect Brad Marchand. Steve Dangle, who's like the guy you hate that protects the Maple Leafs, said, I can't believe I need to support the Bruins. And then there was another goaltender interference in the most recent game, which basically everybody understood that it's never going to get called, because as somebody said, if this would be reversed, there will be no Boston to return to.
And the Bruins got that call, or that non-call.
That got that non-call.
Yeah.
Both calls should have been called.
Right.
But that's my...
So none were
Boston
called?
fans would have lost their minds if they had come out on the losing end of both, because it was sort of justice, rough justice, right?
It was rough justice, but it was very clear that this was a makeup call. This was very, very, very clearly a makeup call.
Okay.
And this relates to our topic of sustainability and things like that. Because a lot of times when people do something, they do something stupid on one end, they change the rule again, and they do something stupid on the back end to recover from it. Don't do stupid the right...
Is it the same ref?
No. Very different refs.
So a different ref had to take into account the previous ref's decision.
Trust me, there was no way that the ref could have come to this and say, I didn't hear about the previous one. But the idea is, and this is my main point
It's an
here,
ecosystem.
It's an ecosystem, and it's a problem. And what happens is initially the rule was really simple. If you put your toe in the blue paint, the goal goes back. The rule was simple. When everybody was putting video and trying to overthink it, they make it bad. Simplify. Make it easy to enforce. If you can't make it easy to enforce, don't enforce it. So says my mom. And that's true for all the greenwashing and all this stuff. And this is why I wanted to finish with this topic, because it ties up think of how much damage you cause when you do one stupid shit. Does that make sense?
It does.
Awesome.
Conservation medallions.
Conservation medallions.
Well, thank you for staying with us. The Didi and Littal Show is a weekly podcast. Get us wherever you get your podcast. Rate and review us and share with friends. If you want to be in the show, reach out to Didi or myself. We're mostly on LinkedIn. And see you next week.
See you next week.
Thanks, Didi.
Thanks, Littal.
Bye.